Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am Fiorella, and I was like fuming, right, when I'm hearing all of these progressives cheer for the picks for Joe Biden's cabinet, and specifically the progressives representatives, right? Like Ilhan Omar, AOC, and even Bernie Sanders. I mean, all these people that were supposed to be the fighters of against the corporate establishment, who were supposed to be the people that took us to the next level to take down this, this whole corrupt rot. The last few days have been extremely frustrating for me in reference of the way we've been discussing election fraud and how there's so much misinformation on both ends, but especially on the left, where the left has completely chosen to ignore it because they hate Donald Trump so much. Even people who I thought were admirable progressives and leftists, where I'm like baffled that they're just scoffing like, oh no, this whole thing is a circus, it's a debacle. And at the end of the day, whoever becomes president, it doesn't matter. In Joe Biden's words, nothing will fundamentally change because the status quo will continue and we're still going to have these same corrupt people in power, right? There's too much of this jubilant, like, hooray just because Joe Biden is now likely ousting, right? We don't know for sure yet, likely ousting Donald Trump. It's like, wow, do you realize what you're cheering for? And all of these people were like, no, we're going to push Biden left. At least we can work with him. Then we come to Joe Biden's beginning to pick his team. And then we're hearing it's going to be a bunch of status quo politicians, a lot of them CIA, NSA, Wall Street, lobbyists, etc. But his chief of staff pick really kind of did it for me. And I did this whole thread that you guys can look at on Twitter. Ronald Klein is going to be, if Joe Biden becomes the full-on presidential nominee, Biden's chief of staff pick. So Ron Klaine is actually infamous for a lot of things, mainly being a corporate lobbyist and a Wall Street investment banker and a venture capitalist. But Democrats, of course, across the board, all cheered, including progressives, that this was a great selection for Joe Biden, citing that Klaine worked for the Clinton administration, the Obama administration. When you actually look into Klaine's record, you can see exactly why he was chosen. This guy is infamous, actually, for lobbying against Asbestos lawsuit payouts. He was one of the people that basically worked with a firm to stop any payments going into people who had come into contact with the carcinogen. He and his two associates registered in January of 2000 to actually lobby for the Coalition for Asbestos Resolution, which was formed by a New Jersey-based roofing company called GAF Corporations. And the Washington Post reported that the GAF corporation spent $7 million to back the coalition, which also had support from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And the Senate records show that Klaine and Walter Dellinger, an acting solicitor general during the Clinton administration, lobbied Congress, the White House, and the Justice Department in support of H.R. 1283, a bill that would cap attorney fees in asbestos lawsuits and limit liability payouts to people harmed by the carcinogen. He also had a huge role in actually lobbying a team representing Fannie Mae during the whole abusive and completely unethical accounting and regulation practices that Fannie Mae was a part of. Klaine lobbied for Fannie Mae on these, quote, regulatory issues, unquote, from August 2002 till August 2006. Fannie Mae, of course, faced a series of scandals while O'Melveny and Myers represented the firm. The mortgage lender was ordered to pay $400 million in fines in May of 2006 to settle claims that it inflated earnings and overpaid executives. And of course, Fannie Mae was also responsible for opposing efforts in 2003 to form an agency within the Treasury Department to oversee the housing lender. So, because they didn't want to be, they want to be watched. They're over there doing whatever it is they wanted. Of course, it was deregulation central And of course, that just increased with Obama. And then we had the crisis thereafter. Klaine was listed as a Fannie Mae lobbyist along with Arthur Culverhouse, a former ambassador to Australia who advised John McCain's presidential campaign in 2008. Democrats assailed Culverhouse during the campaign over his lobbying record, according to reports of that time. The Biden campaign, of course, refused to respond to any comments. But also, Senate records show that Klaine repped a big business front group, the Coalition for Truth in Environmental Marketing Information, which was backed by big giants like Procter & Gamble for fighting the World Trade Organization's efforts to require eco-labels on consumer products. So basically, these consumer products would have to be labeled so people would know like what they were, where they were coming from, and of course, he lobbied to make sure that didn't happen. It said the coalition also was organized by Grocery Manufacturers of America, representing more than 2,900 companies with annual sales of more than $900 billion, included the Electronic Industries Association, American Forest and Paper Association, the Can Manufacturers Association, and the American Plastics Council. They set out a bunch of things regarding the problems of eco-labeling, mainly that they were too difficult and too cumbersome to do. In every single supposed industry where progressives want, like the Green New Deal, Wall Street deregulation, the health industry, big pharma, you could find Klaine's name in it. And it's really telling that this is the person that Joe Biden would pick for his chief of staff, who he was already his chief of staff when Joe Biden was BP, by the way. He also served memorably as the Ebola Czar, if you guys remember, during the H1N1 crisis, where he was criticized heavily for his handling of the H1N1 virus, especially because he didn't have any medical background, in particular regarding the fact of how slow it took to actually get this vaccine. He said, quote, "We had great scientists working on the vaccine, had all kinds of people working on logistics, but in the end, the vaccine did not arrive in time." So there's that. And it didn't go smoothly. This is one of the criticisms that Donald Trump threw at Joe Biden during one of the debates. Another thing that Klaine is known for is his dismissal of the danger of COVID recently, particularly in New York City, which has literally the largest death per million. While simultaneously being extremely critical of the way Donald Trump and his administration handled the entire process. He actually said, "We don't have COVID-19 epidemic in the U.S., but we are starting to see fear epidemic." Kudos to the New York mayor and others for standing against that. So early on, a lot of the Democratic establishment and even progressives were really throwing these insults at Donald Trump because he completely minimized the whole situation, and like how if he would have done something far earlier, all of this would be resolved. But incidentally, somebody like Ronald Klein could get away with saying that on Twitter, and it was totally fine and totally hailed at that moment, right? Like, this is the hypocrisy. This is not about defending Donald Trump. It's about showing you how hypocritical the Democrats are. And this is why people leave the Democratic Party, whether it's for a third party, whether it's to completely leave politics and not pay attention altogether, or whether it's to go to the Republican Party. They may not even be crazy about the Republican Party, but some people are starting to leave the Democratic Party for them because this is just how hypocritical the Democrats are. This is where Mayor Bill de Blasio said, "It was my honor to spend time with our Asian American-owned small businesses in Flushing today. This vibrant community is standing strong, but they need your support. Our Chinatowns are open for business. Make some dinner plans, do some shopping, and stand with our neighbors." And of course, this is February 13th, a month before basically like shutdowns began in general. New York was already like feeling the gripes of this. It's really interesting to me that Democrats somehow want to bury this in some, down some dark hole and pretend that this didn't happen, and that they too also minimize the issue of COVID. In fact, most people did. Nobody really thought it was going to be this big thing, except a few people like Tulsi Gabbard, who were like, "Hey, we need to get on top of this, blah, blah, blah." But most people weren't really crazy about it. So another thing it starts getting really shady here. By his own admission, Klaine played a key role in ensuring Biden's demise. And of course, this is during the 2015 primary where Biden was running against Hillary Clinton and, of course, Bernie Sanders and others for the nomination for president. And, of course, they wanted Hillary Clinton to be the anointed one. And this would be like a betrayal of his deep relationship with Joe Biden since the 1980s. In my opinion, this hints that this may not be a Biden, but a Harris administration. Why would they pick somebody that in the last administration had pretty much cut a few ties with Joe Biden? According to WikiLeaks, she was great last night. And this is, of course, to John Podesta from Ron Klaine. She was great last night. Thanks for inviting me into the campaign and for sticking with me during the Biden anxiety. You're a great friend and a great leader. It's been a little hard for me to play such a role in the Biden demise, and I am definitely dead to them. But I'm glad to be on Team HRC and glad that she had a great debate last night. Thanks, John. If this is going to happen, that means that there is something with, I think, Kamala Harris taking over the reins of the Joe Biden presidency. So Klaine, of course, sat on the trustee advisory board for the Center for American Progress, which is, of course, the think tank that is hailed by all corporate DC insiders, especially people like Neera Tanden, who issued this entire statement saying how absolutely excited she was that he was going to be the chief of staff pick. It's really telling who congratulates these people who are so tied to the corporate interests, to lobbyists, to Wall Street, to even as deep as the CIA and the NSA. Now, Klaine, of course, also lobbied to withhold life-saving drugs from dying patients. And this is something that's really big, especially right now during COVID, especially right now that we don't have Medicare for all or single payer or anything like that, even in the midst of a pandemic. He also lobbied for an airline merger via the U.S. Airways in 2000 and 2001 to get Congress and the Justice Department and Transportation Departments to on board with him. So Klaine was part of this company called I'm Clone, representing them basically. And the committee held a hearing in which the I'm Clone president, Samuel Waxel, was confronted by survivors of 2 cancer victims who died after trying unsuccessfully to get I'm Clone to grant them compassionate use supplies of its much ballyhooed experimental cancer drug C225. Waxel acknowledged that his company granted only 30 compassionate use supplies out of more than 10,000 requests and said the company should have communicated better with terminally ill patients. 10 days after the hearing, O'Melveny terminated its representation of I'm Clone, which paid the law firm $40,000 for 2 weeks of lobbying. So in regard to the airline situation, the U.S. Airways in 2000 and 2001 paid as much as $140,000 to have Klaine and 8 of his colleagues lobby Congress, like I said before. And the merger did fall apart, but they still were able to actually, make that much money. Klaine admitted that American elections are rigged in a tweet reply to Vox in 2014. And this was regarding the Vox article of how 68% of Americans think elections are rigged. And the article was from July 2014. And you guys can read it. But Klaine actually said that in response. And he said that's because they are rigged. And of course, a lot of the right is bringing that up now because they're talking about election fraud and all of these things. And the reality is, yes, our elections are rigged. But the Democrats are such hypocrites. They've talked about election fraud before, but only when it happens to them via Republicans. They pretend it doesn't happen the other way around, that they don't do it against progressives, even though there's literally documented evidence every single year for decades and decades of how our elections are completely fraudulent. They're not secure. Klaine's wife, of course, and the reason I'm bringing her up is because when you have somebody coming in and their spouse has like a long list of consultant experience, I'm sorry, that's definitely going to play into it. So his wife is Monica Medina, and she's a big DNC consulting name in these circles. She served as deputy director for the Walton Family Foundation's Environment Program and as a former special assistant to the Secretary of Defense. She's one of those that it's like she kind of advocates for environmental change, but through these political PACs and these political orgs that, of course, have their own vested interest in achieving these mechanisms. And also the Walton family associations are not a good thing. Show me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are, right? Like, these are their friends. These are their this is their record. This isn't like a record of fighting for justice issues, of protesting and being out on the streets. This is like big business, consulting, lobbyists, big pharma, big insurance, like you name it. It's all there. And of course, despite Klaine's background as an investment banker, okay, a corporate lobbyist, a venture capitalist, these Democrats, including progressives, hailed his appointment as a victory. We can start with Elizabeth Warren, who said Ronald Klein is a superb choice for chief of staff. He understands the magnitude of the health and economic crisis, and he has the experience to lead this next administration through it. Ron has earned the trust all across the entire Democratic Party. Seriously, Liz? Okay. Cenk Uygur, the leader, the CEO of the home of the progressives. It's great news that Joe Biden picked Ronald Klein as his chief of staff. Other choices would have signaled complete abandonment of progressive and fighting posture. Klein is respected by all parts of the Democratic Party and will hear everyone out. Good news for whole country. What? What are you talking about? What progressive background are you fucking talking about, Cenk? Like, are you serious? Ilhan Omar. Excellent choice. Congratulations, Ronald Klein. What a blessing to slowly be moving away from chaos. And she, of course, retweeted the New York Times. Really, Ilhan? Do you know anything about this guy? How the fuck are we moving away from chaos? Like, seriously? We're moving deeper into the arms of chaos. You can talk about the Trump administration and all the foul people he picked, sure. But instead of actually picking progressives, you guys are picking literally corporations, Wall Street, big business. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You're not moving away from any chaos. You're creating new chaos to an already chaotic situation and pretending that this is something to cheer about. How dare you, Fiorella, call them out? How dare you even talk about them? Like, why aren't you? They're allies. Stop criticizing allies. No, these aren't allies. These people are sellouts. They're selling you out to the establishment. They're telling you that it's a good thing that we've invited consultants, corporate America, these lobbyists, these people with these disgusting records that, like Klein, who literally refused to give people medicine, who literally was all about mergers and acquisitions, who literally refused to give people affected by a carcinogens, asbestos money. Like, there's no sugarcoating this shit. Like, this is vile. And what they're doing is sheep herding you back into this party. That's what they're doing. They're sheep herding you back into this party, putting the brand of progressivism or the brand of democratic socialism on here, when that's not really what they're there for. They're there to be like, okay, well, this is better than Trump, right, guys? And AOC, of course, the icing on the cake. She takes this one. Good news and an encouraging choice. What the fuck is encouraging about this guy? Seriously, can you please explain to me, AOC, if you're so intelligent and you're a congresswoman and this is your job to be a public servant, you should know more about this guy's record than I do. Somehow I and others know more about this guy's record than you do. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, how is that possible? You're supposed to be the person opposing these people. No, instead, you're cheering them on from the sidelines. Yay! Why? Because you're already in it. You're a part of it. And so now it doesn't even matter that these people are all corporate lobbyists, that these people are all frauds. Like, what have we come to, America? And that's just this one guy's record, because we're going to have to go over Joe Biden's entire administration and the entire record. More of the revolving door between mainstream corporate media outlets and the U.S. government. 3 paid analysts on MSNBC have left to join Joe Biden's administration. A 4th paid MSNBC contributor helped write Biden's victory speech. Ooh, yay. Legal analyst Barbara McQuaid political analyst Richard Stengel, and health expert Ezekiel Emanuel would no longer be paid contributors at the network. McQuaid has joined Biden's agency review team. Stengel will be on the Agency for Global Media. Emanuel has joined Biden's coronavirus task force. And in addition, of course, MSNBC is no longer paying historian John Meacham as a contributor. Meacham helped, of course, craft Joe Biden's victory speech and appeared on the airways before and after without revealing his work for the campaign, which, hello, conflict of interest. All of the former contributors will be invited back on as unpaid guests with full disclosure about their involvement with the Biden administration. Of course, full disclosure after the fact, after these people who are a bunch of freaking MSNBC contributors, likely some of them, MSNBC and CNN both have more spooks working than most CIA, NSA, intelligence agency, etc. Types of folks working for them. And now you're seeing the connections, right? The Democrats go crazy. They're like, oh my God, they're so corrupt, Donald Trump and his minions and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you do the same exact thing. You've been doing the same exact thing for years. You're all a bunch of corrupt corporate hacks. And you put your corrupt propagandist public relations hacks on news networks, pretending that they're doing journalism, that they're actual unbiased fair media when they're not. They're just propagandists. And then you pretend to be shocked when people call fraud on the election. Like, even just from the standpoint of the way the mainstream media manipulated this election and the way they completely favored, obviously, Joe Biden over Donald Trump, like, that should be illegal. It should be illegal across the board. And it's not. And the fact that it isn't and more people are angry is really telling to me of why America's where it's at. We deserve what we're getting. We deserve Donald Trump. We deserve Joe Biden. We deserve crap. Because if you're not really upset at what's going on, and if you're not looking at these connections and being like, wait a minute, maybe these NBC people shouldn't be working for the Joe Biden campaign, and maybe their coverage wouldn't be so skewed and people wouldn't be thinking that the election is rigged. Maybe the election wouldn't be rigged if these people had actual fair coverage, but they don't. And then the moment you question that, oh, you're a right winger. Oh, you're a grifter. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, this isn't conspiracy. We're showing you the connections. This is no conspiracy. The conspiracy is that there's nothing wrong here. That is the conspiracy. The biggest conspiracy is that everything is fine. And that we have to take what they give us at face value and trust that these institutions that have continuously lied to the American people time and time again, lied about war, lied about weapons of mass destruction, that have couped countries all over the world, that have committed atrocious crimes of humanity and helped others like Israel and Saudi Arabia continue committing these atrocious crimes of humanity, that have bombed and taken over countries all over the world, literally causing massive civil unrest in multiple countries in Latin America. That this country that does that day in and day out and puts CEOs of big tech and puts CEOs of these mainstream media corporate networks and puts these spooks, these CIA operatives into these institutions, whether it's the presidential cabinet, whether it's Congress as lobbyists, whether it's the types of judges that get appointed, whatever it is, whether it's the media, the fourth estate that was supposed to be non-biased, they're putting their people in there. There is no democracy here. There is a system of gangsters, and they work in tandem with each other against the American people, even if sometimes they have to pretend that they're opposing each other. There's no opposition. The Democratic Party is no opposition to the Republican Party. It is one big oligarchy, and they play fight, and Donald Trump wasn't hawkish enough for them. Donald Trump wasn't easily controlled as they wanted to. They want him out no matter what. You didn't choose Joe Biden as president. They chose. The empire chose Joe Biden as president, and the empire is likely to get their way. And if there was ever a semblance of democracy, it's long been gone. And the more people continue just cheering for Team Blue and Team Red, the longer it's going to happen until you have absolutely nothing left and nobody to blame but yourself. As people are dying again, are getting infected with this pandemic, and as this pandemic is being manipulated by the establishment, depending on who's president, depending on who's winning, depending on whatever it is. The media does the dirty work, but these people are all manipulating every single thing against the people to keep you distracted, to keep you silenced, to keep you believing in a system that is falling apart right now and is no longer serving the will of the people. And more people are waking up to that fact, but I need people to wake up faster, because this is like, if the Democratic Party gets away with doing this whole merger, this giant marriage between the corporate state with these giant corporations, with big tech, with NSA, with the CIA, and the military industrial complex, all lining up behind Joe Biden, you tell me where the coup is, because the coup isn't coming from Donald Trump. Guy barely has any people on his side when it comes to Washington, because when they want him out, they want him out. And I think eventually he's either going to capitulate, or eventually his people are going to demand something happens, and then we'll have civil unrest. I mean, nothing is going to change at the top. Don't expect Donald Trump to be your hero, right? I'm talking to the right now. Don't expect him to be your hero, because at the end of the day, he has more in common with those people than he has in common with you. The only people that are going to end this bullshit that we see going on are the truth tellers, are the people that are being insulted right now, are the people that are trying to get to the bottom of this, regardless of their political ideology. Those people are only going to be the ones that are going to enact change. And we might see a union of some of these people on the more right side with some of the people on the independent and the left, because it's like, wait a minute, now we're all being screwed. Like, I'm gonna stop hating you for a moment, because now we're all getting screwed right now. What is going on? Americans are asking, what the fuck is going on right now? Right? We're asking because nobody really knows exactly what is going on. And the thing is, there's something going on that at the very least, people know that they're not telling you. I am disgusted that the vast majority of the left has given up their dignity, their backbone, because they hate Donald Trump so much, because they're so blinded. Like, I hate Donald Trump so much. You know why you hate Donald Trump so much? Donald Trump may be all the things you say. He may be a sexist. He may be a racist. He may be a billionaire. He may be a celebrity that doesn't give a shit about anybody. Okay, all of that may be true. But what Donald Trump does is show the ugliness in America. He shows the ugliness, the truth of this country, and people don't want to see it. They want the pretty, nice, friendly, fascist face. And that's what Joe Biden is. And that's why all these people get so triggered and so angry when you put a dent in their stupid little narrative that everything is fine and that democracy somehow won because Joe Biden is the nominee. Well, let me tell you, democracy is dead in this country. It is absolutely dead. With what's happening right now, they've cemented it. That's it. And all that's left to do is to expose it. Because as soon as we expose it, more people are going to be willing to fight back. Right now, we can't fight back because people don't even believe in it. They're still believing in this lie. And the cognitive dissonance that is encroaching the very fabric of our society is what's destroying and keeping us from rising up. Because the moment these two people on either end realize that they're being duped by these two sides, two wings of the same bird, and they work together, and they're like, you know what, fuck this, we're gonna come after you guys. That's what they don't want. They want you to hate each other. They want you to fight in the streets. They want a civil war. That is what they want. And with the encroaching security state and the encroaching just surveillance state that is happening right now and increasing every day, and it's going to get worse with the Joe Biden administration, as you can see, there's nothing left but to expose and fight back. That's where we're at right now. The empire strikes back. It's not the return of the fucking Jedi with Joe Biden. He's not here to fix anything, and neither is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is eventually, whether it's now or in 4 years, he's eventually gonna go away and live his life and be fine. But the rest of you are not. And that's what you need to understand. And when people are sheep herding the others back into the Democratic Party, and they call themselves progressives, and they have all this influence and this power, like AOC, Ilhan Omar, the Squad. They have this whole brand. Oh, we're so woke. We care about diversity and inclusion and all these lives. No, you don't. You don't give a shit. And it shows on who you're standing by, on who you're supporting. You're not supporting the Wizard of Oz here. You're supporting warmongers, neocons, spooks, security state, big tech, corporations, Wall Street, deregulation, bankers, part of the same administration that screwed the American people in the fucking first place and is the reason why Donald Trump got elected in the first place. You are literally coddling and embracing this whole marriage with them. Do you not think that's going to come back and bite you in the ass? Do you not think eventually people are going to see that and be like, what the fuck? Screw you. We're done. I hope that time comes, because you know what? A lot of us are done being manipulated and being tools of this establishment, and we're not going to stop talking about it. You can censor us, you can take us down, but people aren't going to stop because there's just too many people and so few of you, and the squad is completely a squad of frauds. They're the fraud squad at this point, and they stand behind the Democratic Party, which is basically a corporatocracy. It's a corporate party. It's a corporate entity, not by and for the people, but by and for the corporations, the deep state, and everything in between. So screw them. But understand that there are no heroes in politics. There's not. When it comes to Congress, we really have no friends. When it comes to the executive branch, everywhere, we don't really have friends in DC. The people right now, they don't. And the people who have always tried to do something good get completely shafted and ousted by the party, by both parties. I mean, they just get completely just pushed out. So that's where we're at, fams. And I am just so done with this capitulation going on. And at every single turn, every time some of you make excuses for AOC and Ilhan Omar and say that they're in a tough situation, they're in a tough spot, they kind of have to work with what they have to work with, and that's it. No, enough with the fucking excuses. They have the power of the people, and they're not using it because they care more about their positions of power than they do the people. It is that simple. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I truly appreciate it. Check out our Rokfin. As you can see, the security state is encroaching us every single day. So please make sure to hop on the Rokfin. Even if you don't use it as much yet, just sign up. It's free and we're always on there. Also, of course, like, share, subscribe. And of course, we're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and yeah, just check us out. We have a Patreon and a PayPal. So convo out, guys. See you soon. Bye.